Integrity. Everybody lives in a house. Good recognizes good. A lot of people who can't afford not to keep their houses. Get the fuck off Instagram. You work my ass off. Marketing. You put your ass out there.
Hi everyone, so my name is Killian and this is our guest Josh. So Josh, could you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Josh Spiegel. I'm a third generation Malibuite and real estate broker here in Malibu. We moved to Malibu in 1982 and been here ever since.
Yeah, so before Josh and I were talking and he told me that he's actually a third gen broker in the real estate space. So how was it growing up for you? Like what's kind of like your background of being in a real estate family?
My background in the real estate family, my parents never wanted me to be in real estate, yet here I am. I wasn't very good at following directions as a kid, and I guess I'm not as an adult, but I'm happy with the decision and where it's led me today.
Well, that's perfect. So, like, growing up, did you always know you're going to go into real estate?
No. In fact, before I graduated high school, my dad always told me that he'd fucking kill me if I became a realtor. It's a high-stress job. Never really pays that well, or didn't back then. And, all parents want better for their kids. Yeah, of course. So he wanted bigger and better things for me. And so I went off to college, studied economics, came back, and, did this and that, and then became a realtor.
All right. So, like, for example, since you said you're a third gen, like, what's the best advice? Like, it doesn't have to be in real estate, just like life advice, real estate advice that your dad gave you, besides not being a realtor.
Integrity is important no matter what you do. It's especially important in real estate for a variety of reasons. We could get into that. But I think the number one thing in real estate, like as it pertains to specifics, is if people don't trust you, as your colleagues don't trust you, you're not going to find out about the hush-hush listings, the hush-hush needs. And about 20 to 30% of my business is all off market. Okay. So without that integrity, you're not going to hear about those deals. So you're going to miss out on that 30% piece of your yearly pie, which is a lot. Yeah. That's all your utility bills. That's your fun. That's all the juice. So it's really, really important.
Okay, so that could also lead into like the topic kind of networking. So like what's the best way to like go around and meeting new people and just like making sure like you build relationships that last?
I mean, there's a few different schools of thought, but as it pertains to like in the luxury market and let's say Malibu or Hollywood or Beverly Hills, it's important to be out there. There's no substitute for actually being out there. That means, a lot of agents do this really well. I don't particularly, but the big agents, they're out to dinner every night. They're going out to the clubs and the bars every weekend, and they're putting their credit card down. And there's that old adage, never eat alone. That means taking people out to lunch. That means going to dinners. Being seen at restaurants, saying hello to everybody. I mean, you saw me saying hello on the way into everybody. So people need to know who you are, and even better than that, what you do, because it's no good being a realtor if people don't know that you're a realtor. So that's probably the number one thing with networking, right?
Okay. And how would you say like you're able to maintain relationships over like a long period of time? Trust
and follow through, right? So don't overpromise ever. Under-promise and then over-deliver. Okay. Right? That's a huge thing, and that can that's with all businesses. So you're gonna see this on like Instagram reels and all that stuff, like over deliver, but it's serious. So you provide a value to your client and they'll stick with you, right? If you fight for them, they'll remember that. So longevity is the key, because it's the client. Referrals are what it's all about. So it is keeping those clients, keeping them happy. They're going to refer you deals, and they're going to do deal after deal after deal with you, right? Yeah. Because this isn't the 60s anymore. You don't buy a house pay it off in 30 years and then live in it until you die. Like, people are trading homes all the time. That's just the way of the world nowadays. So that's how it goes.
Yeah. So what would you say for somebody who's like just getting into real estate or has been in the real estate, but they're not getting maybe the results they're wanting to? Like, what is the most common maybe thing they need to improve on? Like maybe a skill set?
Yeah, I'll stop you right there. So the very first thing that I tell young agents is get the fuck off Instagram and TikTok, right? There is no like 3 easy things to becoming a successful real estate agent. No, get off Instagram, pick up the phone and hammer the phone, right? It could be your dad's roommate from college that you're hitting up in Wisconsin. It doesn't matter. Practice hitting the phone and stand up while you're on the phone. It's the little things that matter. Hammer the phone. Keep in contact with anybody. There's things called a CRM. Basically, it reminds you, hey, get in touch with Mr. Smith after 6 months, and you make notes on what you spoke about and daughter's birthday, how's your dog, whatever. Yeah. And you form connections with people all over the place, right? They know that you're a real estate agent, and you cultivate those relationships. So that is the number one thing. And if you don't have that, put your ass out there. Go to dinner. Go to the club and meet people that are going to be buying or selling real estate, right? So everybody lives in a house. They either rent or they own, right? So that's just the fact of the matter.
Yeah. What would you say was like a turning point in your career and like real estate or just in general? Kind of like what realization?
The turning point in my career. I think it was the first house I sold over 10 million. It was a big check, right? You know, you get your first 6-figure check and you're like, hell yeah, let's go. And then the tax man comes around and you have $30,000 of that check left and you have a $40,000 tax bill. What do? You got to earn, right? So that's probably the first, for me, that was the first realization, like, okay, like this is real. This isn't a joke. This is a career now. Like, you have to always be moving and shaking and hustling. So you have to hustle.
So what would you say is like the best way of kind of like selling besides working and just like putting yourself out there?
There's 2 types of agent, right? There's the luxury agent that I am, right? Where you're going to sell, let's say 10, 15 homes a year with an average of like $4 million or $5 million, whatever it is. So you have the luxury market guys, and then you have the volume guys, right? The biggest agent in the United States is out of Texas, right? Okay. This guy sells, his average sales like $900K, but this guy's closing 300 deals a month. Wow. Right? Yeah. So that's, I mean, he's selling almost $1 billion. He's more than $1 billion a year in inventory, right? Yeah. So in order to do that, you have to be marketing. You have to have your team in place. You have to be constantly growing your team because team members fall off. So it's really, really running a business more than it is being a real estate agent.
Okay. So what would you say is like the best way to market yourself right now? Like
for me, or are you saying a new agent?
Maybe a new agent, or like somebody who's been in the game for like 1 to 2 years.
Somebody who's been in the game for 1 to 2 years probably doesn't have a lot going on, right? They're trying to figure out how they're going to get new business. Yeah. The best way to market yourself, you're green, you don't really know anything. People can see that, right? So let's say you get into the business in like 4 years or whatever it is, you're young face, and you know, you're not going to say, hey, I have the experience. But what you can say is, I am hungry, I have nothing else going on, and I will only focus on you. You are everything to me. I need this, and I will work my ass off for this. I have no wife, I have no kids, I have no friends, I have no fucking pets. So I will work my ass off for you. And you tell them that straight up, straight up, and they buy it. And if they don't buy it, the next person will, right? So don't be afraid. I told no,
Yeah.
right? Just go harder. That's the number one thing. That's for marketing a new agent. I think that's the number one thing. And again, stay the fuck off Instagram and TikTok. Don't be doing stupid dances. Hammer those phones. Hammer the phones.
All right. What would you say for agents who like are trying to get listings but struggle even to get a listing? Like, what would your advice be?
You know, I would say establish a farm, right? Okay. So what a farm is, let's say, instead of saying, hey, I'm working all of LA. No. Focus on a 10 square block area.
Okay.
Right? And hammer that area. Door knock, know every single building, know every single door, know every single person that lives there. Oh, that's Mrs. Smith, that's Mrs. Johnson, they have 2 kids, and know every single thing about that neighborhood and just hammer it, market it. Handwritten letters. All the time, constantly, because they'll see your name there. They'll bring you in for a listing appointment. And then once you get that one listing and that one sale, that you just market the hell out of that sale. And now that one sale turns into 2, that 2 turns into 3, 3 turns into 5, 5 turns into 10, and you're off and running.
Yeah, so
right?
How would you market that sale, for example?
I know I said you shouldn't do this, but it's social media. You can do social media. You do postcards just sold. You do your mailers, and then you hit all your CRM. You say, hey, Todd from Wisconsin. Hey, did you hear about my first sale? How about that? You know, I've been calling you. You told me to stop calling you. I'm not going to stop calling you, but I just made my first sale, and I thought you'd be really happy about that. So you call your entire network. You call on everybody, and then you're just hammering that farm. And then as that farm grows, you can grow, right? And then maybe you get a team member, and then you can establish another farm. But it's all about the grit and the hard work and the hustle.
All right. So going back to networking for a little second. So like, how would you say you get to meet new people besides like obviously fostering relationships, like and keeping them current and close? Like, how would you go about meeting new people?
Alcohol? No. Meeting new people, something that I like to do. Personally, it wasn't born out of business, but it's like civic duty. Is community service, and I think that's really important as just a human being in general. It doesn't have anything to do with business, but as you give back, you meet other good people, and good recognizes good, right? So people will help you, and people gravitate towards that. They want to help you, right? So I think that helps expand your network in one way. Hobbies, right? If you play golf, you know, you're with golfers. If you play frisbee golf, whatever it is, right? Pickup games in the gym, like whatever it is. Meet people wherever you are, right? So just strike up conversations. You know, don't be the quiet one.
That's really good advice.
Yeah. What
would you say is like an obstacle that you faced maybe in the beginning of your career and then you got around, and how did you overcome it?
Market forces. When I first got into the business, we were in the housing crisis. Nobody was doing deals. Very few select people were doing deals, and they were doing a lot, but you really had to pivot. For me, that was transformative, in the sense that you really, really, really had to understand who you are and stick to it and show up and just stay on it.
Yeah, so just like consistency.
I mean,
obviously.
Yeah, that's a number one thing. Yeah, you got to show up. You got to be in the office. Right? Because now your ears to the ground, your colleagues see you, people see you, and you never know. There could be that one person who walks into the office and you're there to swoop them up. I mean, it's happened. So I think that's huge. Consistency. Stay on it. Keep grinding.
For example, if somebody's just moving into real estate from like a full-time job and like they're doing real estate part-time, what was like the number one thing they should focus on? Building those connections?
Yeah, definitely. And don't quit your job. Do not quit your job, because you are not going to make a sale in your first year. I mean, if you do, you're lucky, right? So don't expect to make your first sale in the first year. It's just how it goes. Nobody knows you. It's just one of those things. I mean, there are all-stars out there who just like hit the ground running, snap off their first deal 6 months, third deal by 8 months, and then they're banging. But it doesn't normally happen that way. So don't quit your job, hustle, and focus on your farm. Establish your farm.
You said you entered in the housing crisis.
Yeah.
So how would you rate like where the current market is headed? Obviously, like, this is just your personal kind of like view, but like, where do you think we're going, and how do you think you should best prepare for that?
It's not the same in the sense that we were seeing a lot of people who couldn't afford to keep their houses. In this current market, what we're seeing now is a lot of people who can't afford not to keep their houses, right? So they're locked in. Let's say they bought a $4 million house at 2.5%. If they sell now, that same monthly nut that they're spending on their $4 million house is the same as a $3 million house somewhere else. So if they sell, what are they going to buy?
Yeah, something less. So they kind of have to stay where they are right now.
Yeah. So fortunately, in the luxury market, for me, I mean, there's people who don't really care. They get private money, or they're getting lines of equity, and their lines of credit, and their lines of credit are at like 2%, and it's not a conventional mortgage. So, you know, we're still doing deals. It's just the volume of deals have been cut in half. So, my business is still there. I'm probably a upper tier agent, not a top tier agent. My deals are still there, just half of them. Which is tough and it's scary.
Yeah. So how do you deal with unpredictability of, let's say, your income?
Yeah, again, so lessons learned from the past. I told you about my first deal, right? The IRS tax man came, kicked me in the nuts. And so you learn to save your money for the lean times, right?
Yeah.
So now that I have a wife and kids, I know that I can't just be going out and buying dumb stuff and spending money on dumb stuff. So you have to save your money, because when it does get lean, now you can dip in and survive the lean times, and then it gets flush again. I don't think that this downturn is going to last, right? I think Q3, people are going to have more confidence in the markets. Rates are going to stabilize. People aren't going to be scared off by 3.8% or 4% anymore.
Yeah.
It's just going to become a new norm, and we'll get back to it. 2024, you know, January 2024, Q3 2023 is going to be okay.
Yeah, I would really hope so too.
Yeah.
Also, so like, obviously building your brand as an agent, like when you're starting out, is difficult, but so an agent is mostly a personal brand. Would you kind of agree with that statement?
100%. Yeah. And when you pass your test, when you pass your real estate test, you're going to get bombarded with brokerages, right? Your brokerage matters. We're the number one brokerage. And that's true to some degree, but a very, very small degree. You matter, right? It's the personal relationships that's going to get you the listing, and it's going to make your buyer feel comfortable with you. So starting out, you need to demonstrate what differentiates you from the rest of the agents, right? So that's what value do you bring? And as a new agent, it better be hustle, right? That's the only thing that you can say is, I'm going to work harder than anybody else. That's it, because you don't know more than
don't have
anybody
the experience,
else,
so.
right? Like, you're not going to have a better negotiation technique, or you're not going to have a better gift of gab than Brandon Williams in Beverly Hills. The dude's a monster, right? Or you're not going to have the allure and the gift to make clients feel comfortable like Chris Cortazzo here in Malibu. I mean, the guy's amazing. What you can do is just make your clients feel comfortable that you will not let them down.
And what's the best way of doing that? Obviously,
just
like
honesty, being honest 100% of the time. Don't overpromise, and always do what you say you're going to do. Show up, be there. Always pick up your phone. Always pick up your phone for your clients. Day, night, doesn't matter. Be responsive. That's honestly probably 40% of the job is customer service. It's just managing expectations and putting out fires. So always pick up your phone. I think that a lot of realtors put a lot of focus on like how to do deals, how to do more and more and more deals. And I think that that's great, right? You need to have that, but you also need to compartmentalize that and train yourself to get better at your craft all the time. So in order to be better at your craft, you have to focus on the best you can be, and whether that's, community service or service to others. How do you make an impact on your community? How do you make a positive impact on your family and those around you? How do you be your best friend that you can be? And within that, you will understand how you're creating a better value for not just the community, but for your clients. And it all comes together. It's symbiotic. So always figure out what sets you apart and go attack that. And I think that that's kind of understated out there. I think that there's always those people, again, on Instagram and TikTok who always say, hey, these 5 things will make you X, Y, or Z, right? It doesn't work like that. You've got to show up, you've got to hustle, and you've got to do all the little things, like phone calls. Hammer the phone calls every day. Set a time every day or Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 10 to noon. You don't do anything else except sit in your office and hammer the phones. You don't do anything else, right? You're not going out to lunch. You're not writing back emails. You set time periods where you're doing nothing else but that specific task, and don't change it. It's the small things that make a huge difference. Stick to it, and you will see results after a certain amount of time. And don't expect results overnight, and do not be afraid of no, ever. Because the best is when the no's turn to yes. And this isn't like a euphemism for anything else except for real estate, right? No means no most of the time, but not in real estate, right? And don't forget, buyers and sellers are both liars, right? They will tell you, this is my bottom line. Push comes to shove. It may not be. So don't be afraid to go one extra counteroffer, one extra push. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But don't be afraid of failure in whatever you do, whether it's real estate, media, sales, except skydiving. Be afraid of failure in like skydiving or like some other crazy shit you guys are doing. So
of course,
that's my advice.
So you just touched on like consistency and showing up and like making sure discipline's there for like the calls. So like what other small habits do you think can exponentially kind of add to your results? Like just the basics. It doesn't have to be like anything like super, super particular.
Yeah. So I think every year there's, everybody has like New Year's resolution, but I think like set small goals, right? So say, something that I did about 10 years ago, I decided that I wasn't going to watch TV in my bedroom anymore, right? Unless I'm sick, right? So I read every night before I go to bed. And this isn't me, reading like strictly nonfiction every night. Like, no, I read BS too, right? So read every night, half hour before you go to sleep, right? Buy yourself a Kindle. It's easy. It's the little things like that can help you improve vocabulary and improve your thought process. Instead of looking at your phone during your morning poop, do the Wordle or do a Sudoku. Get your brain firing. Wake up a half hour early. It's all these little things that propel you forward. And don't try and do all of them at once. Just pick up one thing at a time, make it a habit.
All right. Well, also something that I would want to add is just maybe tracking those habits is, at least in my experience, is very beneficial. Like, because if I can see the results from month on month, that definitely boosts kind of like my, not only motivation, but just discipline. And like David Goggins calls this the cookie jar. So when I know from the past I have worked like on something super hard and it finally paid off, like you kind of said, like turning those no's into yeses, and then I can like reach into my memory and pull that out, that definitely benefits me.
Yeah, track them, and then tangible goals, right? Like, I want to make 300 phone calls this month. You can measure that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that you can attain. So tangible goals are important.
So being a real estate agent, you said like you always pick up your phone. So how can you balance kind of like having a family and being a real estate agent? I mean, obviously there has to be some sort of compromise.
So I'm established at this point, so I don't like always pick up the phone. If my 4-year-old is having a dance recital, like I'm not picking up the phone for the BS client. Like I might for the big one, but like it's just finding that balance. But if there's a phone number that if you're in the office and there's a phone number you don't recognize, you pick that thing up.
Yeah.
Right? And then you tell this scammer to, don't call me, or whatever. Just pick up your phone, be responsive, and be there for your clients. It's huge. It's immeasurable. What's that island?
That one is Santa Barbara Island.
Is he right? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Good boys.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you, man.
You're welcome.